being here tonight. My name is Alex Klein. I'm with Resilient Cities Catalyst. I live locally, and I've been having the massive privilege of working on this project since 2021 with and engaged in the Oceanside community since that time. So it's a really exciting evening for us to have this massive culmination of work and effort. We're very excited to share with you the 3 design concepts where they've gotten to this evening. This is our final public workshop. So one of the things we wanted to kind of talk through was where we go from here. And these are just some images of the coastline while we're speaking. You'll see a lot of these tonight. So in August, we got our first preview of the ideas from our 3 teams. And in October, we heard refined ideas reflective of public feedback and the team's deepening understanding of the issues and opportunity here in Oceanside. And your ideas and feedback have mattered. If you haven't seen it, we've published your comments to date. So if you go on our website, we actually have a feedback summary that we kind of quietly launched last week, which synthesizes and summarizes all of the feedback we had gotten from those first 2 public workshops. So if you were one of those people who gave us a lot of feedback and input, you'll see it reflected there, and we're really grateful for your feedback. Tonight we'll hear the final ideas from the teams, and we encourage you to listen and think about how those proposals will shape your community for the years to come. These proposals are thinking about Oceanside today, but they're really thinking about the generations in the future and how this coastline will adapt and shift over time. The teams are proposing different schemes to accomplish sand retention along Oceanside and even various co-benefits from new to open green spaces, recreation for families, access to the coastline. And as you're listening to the teams, we're asking that you submit questions. So a little bit of how, I think one of my next slides is looking at an overall timeline of where we're at. But one of the things that we wanted to kind of point to tonight, you're gonna hear from each of the 3 teams. You have little QR codes around the space where you can submit questions digitally. You also have little note cards that if for some reason you cannot access the Mentimeter, which is a digital tool for submitting a question online, you can handwrite them. We have many people over to the right here, your left, if you're sitting, who are there to collect your questions throughout the evening. Please get those in. We'll run through each of our presentations, and then we'll do a live Q&A with everyone tonight. We are in the kind of final stages of this process, so to give you a little bit of a glimpse into where we're headed, this is the 3rd and final workshop, and then our jury is going to be deliberating around a set of design criteria to select a project to bring to City Council in January. So we're going to have a special session in January towards the end of the month where we'll be publicly revealing all of this work, all of the effort, and where we've landed with a single winning concept to move forward into permitting and final design. So this entire process, really quickly, just to kind of reiterate, has been based on an overarching goal to create an innovative multi-benefit sand retention project that serves both the local and regional benefits. So throughout the entire process, from the onset of selecting design teams through to this phase today and the work that you're going to see, we've really been focused on a set of key objectives and design criteria. And when the jury deliberates, these are the very objectives and mission that they will be considering and interrogating when they're looking at each one of these projects. So our criteria, this is all published online as well. So if I'm referencing it here really quickly, but we'll publish these slides and also have the design brief published with all of this information, but it's based around physical, financial, environmental, social, and regional goals. And then we have a set of key project assumptions, like how much sediment we're imagining would nourish the types of projects we're seeing today, and uncertainty in the design success, et cetera. So all of the teams that are presenting will speak to different performance goals, costing, as well as share with you what their concept might bring to this community. So that's kind of where we're headed. And let's see, we have a couple minutes to go. So what we wanted to do is set up, again, today our first team is going to be Del Taras and MVRDV. We're so fortunate to have them joining us from the Netherlands. And they're going to share with you today an update to their concept. They'll have about 20 minutes to present. So as you're listening, again, you can be writing questions. You can submit your questions online. we'll be really looking at those to respond to the Q&A at the end of this evening's session. So please listen carefully, and again, be thinking a lot about how this impact might shift your experience in the coast moving forward. So just to keep us on track, and I think maybe the last thing I'll say is if you're looking for members of the project team who've been working on this, we have stickers on us that say RE. You can find any one of us if you have questions. This evening, we're here to kind of support the dialogue and facilitate everybody's discussion. So without further ado, I would love to invite up to this stage, which is going to be Foka, Maria, and Keys, who are presenting this evening for Deltares. Thank you.
Hi, wow. I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit being back in high school here. But and you're so far away. It seems a bit like the beach. You know, it used to be there and it's now here. So anyway, thank you, Alex, and welcome to the future of Oceanside. Thank you for having us so much. It's been a real privilege being part of this, I would say, historical moment. A moment that you will get back your beach. So let me introduce myself. I'm Foka Morel. I'm partner at MVRDV from the Netherlands, together here with Maria Stimati, also from MVRDV, and indeed Kees Nederhof from Deltares. So we're here presenting our... Can you hear me? Okay, some people cannot hear me. All right, I'm going to stand a little bit closer. Okay, we're here to represent our team from Deltares USA, Deltares and MVRDV, as I just said. Indeed flew in from the Netherlands only yesterday, again, coming from a winter mode into the summer mode. It's beautiful, always. Tonight we're going to tell you about our proposal in 3 parts. So the first part will be about the ambition. The second part will be talked about by Maria, our proposal. And the last part, third part, is about our future. So as a design team, we grouped architects, landscape architects, urban planners, coast engineers to join our forces. So first we'll talk about our ambitions. We joined our forces to really craft a visionary solution that harmonizes with the town's richest heritage, the surfing, and embraces the desires of its vibrant community, you. And we were enabled to do so, given the format of this so-called competition. And like I did before in the previous presentation, I would really like to congratulate the city of Oceanside on the way that they have set up this process, because maybe you don't know, but this is really not your ordinary competition. Normally, it's a very introverted play. It's almost egocentric, I would say. So as a design group, you would have to be lucky to really hit the sweet spot. But Oceanside, on the other hand, really turned this into an open conversation. And we had many up to now with you. And there we could listen and learn from each other with workshops, etc. And we listened, I hope, carefully. So trying to understand the intrinsic link between the town's identity and the need for a safe and sandy beach, of course. That's the whole bigger deal here. Our innovative sand retention project isn't just about transforming the coastline, it's the base for a sustainable and resilient future with multiple benefits for both people and nature. We bring forth a design that seamlessly blends functionality and flexibility, using a form of a peninsula, a natural structure that actually is part of the South California coastline, with a proven engineering methods, while recognizing the importance of adaptability, as you can see here in this image. The project can be phased according to the budgetary considerations, the performance metrics, ensuring practical and effective implementation. What sets our approach apart is a commitment to the multifunctionality. So we start, of course, with a beach, clear, but then layering on top of it, nature, biodiversity, and many more things, of course, leisure program. We're creating a dynamic space that creates connectivity, not just along the coast, north to south, but also land inwards. And the design prioritizes biodiversity, making it a living and breathing entity that thrives in harmony with its environment. So picture a peninsula that is not only retaining sand, but it also captures the essence of Oceanside's potential, and there's many. It's a catalyst for climate adaptation, adaptive coastal urban development. And our project wants to redefine the coast of Oceanside, the relationship with its coastline, offering a beach, a sustainable and a community-driven haven that stands the test of time, as said, for the next generation. So join us, please, with our journey as we transform the shoreline into a symbol of sustainable sandy beach where innovation meets nature and where the resilience of your communities mirrors the strength of the natural ecosystems. Maria, please.
Hello from me too. In the next pages, I will take you through what are the main principles and how we thought of our design for the city of Oceanside. We started with a clear understanding of the context and the identity of the city, and we had a direction based on the technical feasibilities that can be hosted on this coast. For that, with that in mind, we designed a vision for Oceanside's new beach, the Green Dream Peninsula. A new beach for Oceanside and a place that reflects the needs of this community. In order to facilitate this innovative design proposal, we set up a set of principles that we have as a base for that. The engineering principle of the proposal is to use a peninsula. This is a structure commonly found in nature and in the context of South California, and we reimagine it for Oceanside with innovative methods. The proposal, though, is not only about transforming a beach, but most importantly, is about creating a sustainable and resilient coast for the future of the city, which leads us to the importance of fostering a proposal that generates the environment for habitat restoration, and a place that reflects the needs and the identity of the city of Oceanside and the place for the community. We aim to give space for nature and space for biodiversity to flourish in our design and to strengthen our proposal the already iconic identity of Oceanside. These principles lead us to create the Green Dream Peninsula, a constructed peninsula designed to restore and sustain the beaches of Oceanside City. For our pilot site location, we chose Buccaneer Park. This site was for our team a great representation of the problem of the city, a beachside without any dry sand. But moreover, the backshore wetland with a creek mouth pose a great restoration potential for our design. The first step to actually make our design is to create the core of the peninsula. This will be an artificial headland of around 360 feet long towards the sea and about 500 feet wide. The headland is constructed from the land on and is not obstructing any views to the sea and the ocean. Even at this early stage of the peninsula, this is a functional space. It's retaining sand as well as being a place to be used by the community for multiple activities, for example, a safer entrance to the sea and fishing. The total cost of this phase will be around $6.8 million, and you can see a bit on the page a breakdown of this cost. As we move on, after this initial stage, a fill of sand will take place, 200,000 cubic yards, half a mile north of the peninsula, and 100,000 cubic yards, half a mile south. This type of sand fill is needed to create enough sand volume in order to have a base for our beach. The peninsula connects to the Backshore wetland and becomes an extension of it, with a creek mouth opening towards the ocean. A vegetation layer will be added on top of the core of the peninsula, and that will raise the cost for about $30,000. Functionally, how the peninsula works, it slows down the mobility of the sand from north to south and from south to north, retaining and nourishing the beach south and north of the side of the peninsula without obstructing overall movement of sand. That creates a new beach with a width ranging from 100 feet wide to the widest part to the 50 feet wide to the narrowest part. For a lasting impact of this beach and the measure, there is the need of nourishment. Approximately, we will need 100,000 cubic yards per year. This is kind of a rough estimate, and the exact amount of how much infill will be needed, it should be studied further on in the future. The downdrift effects are controlled, and the sediment connectivity is preserved with this peninsula. The peninsula is publicly accessible, makes the sandy beach publicly accessible for bathing and the surfing point, assists the watershed through flood control enhancement, and creates area of nature exploration. In this stage of constructing the peninsula, we are adding another layer of activities, for example, a tidal pool, a set of elevated pathways, and other public amenities that will raise the cost for the creation of this peninsula to $8.5 million. We're also adding a boardwalk connecting the north and south of Oceanside. We can imagine this boardwalk to really connect all the way from the pier and become an extension of the Strand. And this is what you see here with this orange, let's say, lines, how we imagine this to happen. And on the next, on the next phase, we see that how we create this kind of different habitats. So by making this extension of the wetlands, we create in total 5 new habitats. We have the sandy beach, of course, we have the sandy dune habitat, the coastal wetland, the intertidal habitat, and the subtidal habitat. So here you see a plan view of our proposal. You see how our proposal is connecting with the Buccaneer Wetland Restoration Project and becomes a place with the community. We create a wide, safe, and sandy beach. We create intertidal wetland. We have the tidal pool. And this is another view of axonometric view of how this will be connected, and how, as in a zoom, you can see these different activities that can take place, the elevated pathways, the connections between north and south, and inland. How the structure is made. The structure is quite straightforward, let's say. Here in these sections, we have a core of bigger and smaller quarry rocks and boulders with a spine of quarry run on top that helps to grip the sand and restore the new beach. This is a view of one of the elevated pathways towards the pier. We have space, enough space on the beach, we have entrance, and we make sure that the surfing conditions are preserved on this side. As a next step, we wanted to take a bit of a better look on what is the environmental feasibility and what type of habitats we can imagine here. In order to do that, we have consultation with local experts. We have a project team with specialists on species and what type of habitats we want to create. And that's how we created the 5 different habitats that I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to take you a bit through how we imagine this and how this could be realized in Buccaneer Peninsula. The first one is the subtidal habitat. It's really at the edge and it's mostly underwater, as it says by the name, and it's mostly a rocky and sandy surfaces that can enable local species to settle and grow, like, for example, surf grass that we see here. And we see this is very important because biodiversity loss can be reversed through this type of project with habitat restoration. The next habitat, as we go more towards into the land, is the intertidal habitat. It's a rocky habitat that enables preservation of species, and it has been seen in the context of Southern California a lot, like you see here, an example from the La Jolla intertidal habitat. And also here we see that it can create opportunity for these tidal pools, like the example of Laguna Beach, and we can imagine it being here on our site, open for more human activities. Then we have the sandy and beach dune habitat, which is also part of the last more inward part of the peninsula, and we can have species like coastal sage scrub on that. Dunes in general is a nature-based solution to enhance resilience, and it can be part of the new beach of Oceanside. The last habitat is the coastal wetland. It's a zone designed to reduce direct human intervention and to minimize the effects that human intervention can have to the system. Wetland restoration can help with extreme climate events, so it can help with flooding, and it can ensure that the beach will stay there for a longer period of time. Overall, that's the design of the Sandcatcher. It's a collection of multiple benefits. And the Green Dream Peninsula is a dynamic space that creates a new beach that benefits community and nature. Now Volker will explain the future possibilities.
Thank you. Yeah, so welcome again to the future of Oceanside. While the future of the Rebeach, as we just explained, is actually very near, let's open up another window of opportunities. Well, since Oceanside is one of the pearls of the Californian coastline, and each pearl has its own identity. So how to add to that variety and how to stand out and really make a difference, make people want to go to Oceanside. And even within Oceanside, we see different chain of diversities, a chain with new destinations by adding program in addition to the pier that's of course already here. And restoring the connection over the full stretch of the coastline along the way, making a unity of Oceanside again, making the sea accessible again. And although it's not a must, we proposed a pilot project to be at the Buccaneer Street. It seems the most in need, not having any beach anymore for so many years. So as we studied before, we can also imagine another peninsula at the Wisconsin Street. And even more can start, as you see the dashed line. They can start growing and lining up between the pier and the laguna. With a minimum maintenance and a high level of adjustment, either smaller or larger, it's easy to copy, it's easy to phase over time. And within the current budget, we actually find that all these interventions can either start over time or maybe even at the same time. All 3 peninsulas can be realized at its low cost and low cost intervention. And we can see each new leisure paradise be growing from there. Each with their own identity and each with their characteristic features, some planned, some unforeseen. So, but before starting to transform the entire coastline of California, maybe we just start very small and where it's needed most, as said, the Buccaneer Street. But why call it a green dream, as we say? Well, the peninsula part, I think, is pretty obvious by now. But the green dream, why? For one, because it's not only green, it's actually also very blue and, of course, mostly sandy. And more important, it's really not a dream. It's something that we can really get very soon. It's plain simple. It's a proven method, and it's within budget. And we do small interventions with the least impact on the current situation, with a large impact on nature and sea life, with the least effect on the waves, the iconic waves, of course. And it simply retains the sand for you. It has one more on nature focused, the other one more on leisure, but they will all have sand. Nice sandy beaches as you knew them before. So this is our proposal. The real work really only starts now. And we can't wait to start creating the future of Oceanside here with you and for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for applauding. We know that this moves very quickly, and we appreciate you thinking. We have a couple minutes right now for you to take some time to write some questions if you have them. Again, you can scan them and do it on Mentimeter, or you can submit them to these wonderful ladies who are standing over here by the side door. We really encourage you to ask a lot of questions. This is like the final moment in time that we have to really think about how these concepts are going to shift Oceanside. So I'm going to, you're going to see me flip through a number of additional slides here for just one quick second. All of our slides are going to be posted online for you to review in more detail. So what you're seeing me go through is an enormous amount of work that that team has put into their work. Here we go. Okay. Let's do. There we go. Okay, so Erin's standing right next to me. Our next presentation this evening is going to be from our partners at International Coastal Management, coming all the way from Australia. And we're really excited to share with you this concept. So if you, again, go ahead and give this, you have a couple minutes here. We'll give people a couple minutes to submit questions, and then we're going to give Erin the floor to share a little bit about his concept. And then while you're thinking of questions or kind of taking a minute to submit something, you're going to see all of these concepts have a location in mind. But part of the next process of work that we're moving into is actually to select a final site. We have not cited the location in its entirety. We'll be doing that in our next phase of work. So all of the locations and sites are conceptual at this phase, which is important to keep in mind as you're thinking of questions or thinking about how these might impact the coast. So we'll give people just a minute. Can we turn on music for maybe a minute and give people a second to submit some questions, get some water, and then we'll kick things off here in just a second. So yeah, let's everybody kind of grab your seats, grab some water, grab a snack, and we're gonna give Erin the floor.
All right. Hello, Oceanside. G'day, mates. Thanks for having us back. Yeah, love coming to Oceanside. Had a nice little swim out there this morning. It's pretty chilly, but nice and refreshing after a long flight. So. My name's Aaron. I'm from International Coastal Management. We're a coastal engineering firm based out of the Gold Coast in Australia. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to work on this project so far, and I'm just going to run through some stuff today. We're still doing relatively the same approach, but I've got a lot more detail to go into, so come along for the journey. So I'll just start off. I know you guys are probably more than familiar with what's going on here already, but just to reiterate, there's a couple of existing problems here. we're really trying to get access to safe and usable beaches, and there's sort of two scenarios happening here at Oceanside. One where there's literally no beach, so which is not good for like no access and it's not safe. But then there's also the other, which is like a limited accessible beach with the cobble. And here's an image of the famous cobble wobble, which I thought was quite a cute little term. But actually having cobble on the beach can also disrupt the downdrift impacts too. So if the sand is moving all the way down the beach and you've got cobble, there's no sand to move down drift, so the downdrift beach can actually get a double whammy. So we want to get back that sandy beach, which is also good for people and for the Grunion. So when we talk about re-beach, what do we actually mean? So we've done quite a few of these re-beach projects all around the world. Here's an example up on the right-hand corner on the Gold Coast in Australia. And it's a very similar sort of scenario. So when we talk about re-beach, we're really talking about creating a healthy beach profile, living shoreline. And so what is a healthy beach profile? You get these two like bumps, one bump at the top of the beach and another bump at the bottom of the beach. So the top bump is the sand dune and the bottom bump is a sandbar. So what we really want to do is recreate the sand dune and the sandbar, but then we also need to retain and manage those as well for an extended period of time, and that's when you get your real sort of re-beach benefit. So just to reiterate again, here's an example from a re-beach project on the Gold Coast in Australia. So going back in time, you can see there's some early settlements towards the beach in the 1930s. It's sort of built just behind the sand dunes. The Gold Coast has been a famous and popular beach destination for Australians and other people around the world, all the way through the 40s, 50s, 60s. Around the 70s, something started to change. So the conditions changed. It was both man-made influences and natural conditions changing. And we were actually left with this long rock wall sort of step. And the Gold Coast is 20 miles long. So we had this, basically the road level down to this rocky step down to the beach. And what did we do? We did this same very process where we opened up the conversation to international experts around the world. We came up with pilot projects. We implemented those pilot projects. We developed management strategies for dune protection and surf enhancement, and we've been implementing those strategies for the last 4 decades. And what you see on the right is what the Gold Coast looks like today. So why is that relevant to Oceanside? I mean, the two places are really sort of got this real parallel connection. There's some early settlements just behind the dunes in Oceanside back in the 30s. Again, Oceanside has been a popular beach and surfing destination over the years. Conditions have changed, both man-influenced and natural influenced, and we're left with this long rock wall exposed where a beach used to be. So what do we want to do? We want to really leverage that successful re-beach project that we've been doing before and bring those concepts and strategies to Oceanside. So what are we talking about here? Is it anything that hasn't been done already? Not really. Oceanside already had quite a significant sandy beach and even sand dunes on the top of the beach, historically. So what we're trying to do is not something that hasn't been done or can't be done at Oceanside. We just want to recreate what has been done before and then retain it and keep that in place. So here's sort of a schematic. You can see there was actually dunes on both sides of the strand, right up into this little pier headland, sort of abutment under the pier back in the day. So there's really two main design goals here where we want to address the top of the beach and the bottom of the beach. So the top of the beach is the sand dunes, the bottom of the beach being the sandbars. This is the example from right at the front of where I live in Australia. That's me in my new favorite surf shirt. Thanks for the SOS shirt there. That's actually the board that I grew up learning to surf. Is my dad's old surfboard. And he's actually Californian. He grew up in Vandenberg Air Force Base and surfed Halama Beach during the 60s and 70s and then worked as a commercial diver out of Santa Barbara. So as much as I sound Australian, I've got Californian roots, so I'm really rooting for you guys too, and I want this project to work. So yes, the sand dunes, basically our founder Angus Jackson also, wrote the book on dune management for the Gold Coast in Australia, which is still implemented today. So yeah, it's not just me up here talking, even though you guys have probably seen me a few times and you might be getting sick of me. But there's actually a whole team behind us in Australia. So we have our founder, Angus Jackson, who actually had a similar role to Jamie here at Oceanside about 40 years ago on the Gold Coast, and he was the one that implemented these pilot projects. And then he actually came to Oceanside in 1983 and talked to the US Corps of Engineers and was looking at the bypassing tests that were going on, the pilot projects for the bypassing system, and actually took that back to Australia, and we implemented the bypassing system on the Gold Coast, which has been running successfully now for the last few decades, and we actually implemented 2. So apart from that, we're basically now, after 40 years, bringing this sort of technology and information back to you guys to, keep the momentum going. We also have Bobby Corbett. She won an Engineers Australia Award for Women in Coastal Engineering and Geoscience this year for her work on artificial reefs. We've got Sam King, who's actually joined me. He's sitting down the front. He won an Engineers Australia Award for his nature-based solutions project in Australia. He's going to be featured in this upcoming US Army Corps Engineers Engineering with Nature book that's going to be published this year. And then we also have Roger Tomlinson, who's the head of the Griffith University's Coastal Management Program, and some great, world leaders in the field in this team. Darryl Strauss, Dr. Darryl Strauss, one of the best coastal modelers in the world. And we also have Dr. Rod Connolly, a formative marine biologist. So we got quite the Rebeach team here behind us. All right, so how do we approach this Rebeach, and what do we do? If you want to protect or defend the coastline, there's kind of a couple of ways you can do it. One is a harder approach, so you do like a big structure that comes off the beach, really good at trapping sand. You can do breakwaters, emergent, which is really good at breaking the waves and keeping the waves offshore. That's not really what we want to do here at Oceanside. We want to do a bit of a softer approach, so we're looking at doing a smaller structure and a submerged reef. So we want to slow down the sand movement, and we want to slow down that wave energy, not stop it offshore. And that results in this kind of wonky looking thing that we're calling a living speed bump. So again, the whole idea is not to stop the natural process, it's really just to slow everything down. So we're still allowing for that longshore sand transport to move, but it's just slowing that process down with an onshore speed bump and an offshore speed bump. So what does that actually look like? Here's just an example of what the onshore speed bump could look like. We've got a bit of a headland with a low permeable end on it. So how do we come up with this? Sometimes the best place to look is right on your own doorstep. So we looked at what's already here at Oceanside, what's kind of working. One of the things that we noticed actually under the pier has got a little headland sort of abutment. It's about 150 feet long. And the jetty that comes off the end sort of adds this extra permeable sort of end to it. So this length, 150 feet little headland, is actually working pretty well to stabilize the top of the beach. So what we wanted to do is basically recreate that, one up at Tyson Street Park, one at Wisconsin Avenue, and that's just to stabilize that top of the beach. And we're looking at about a 4,000 foot sort of benefit area in this pilot zone. So we're stabilizing the top of the beach enough. We don't think so, going into the increased climate change and storm severity. So we want to also stabilize the bottom of the beach. But we know that stabilizing the top of the beach is going to be beneficial just to get that dune stabilization and allow the dunes to grab. So we're actually going to add some bottom of the beach stabilization. So what is that going to look like? Well, there's two things here. One is nearshore nourishment. So nearshore nourishment is essentially placing sand into the nearshore area, and then an eco-engineered reef. So the nearshore nourishment and the eco-engineered reef, they kind of work hand in hand to stabilize that bottom of the beach. And nearshore nourishment is also a process that was developed on the Gold Coast. It's basically a really efficient and effective, cost-effective way of putting sand back onto the profile to nourish that whole profile. So whenever you want to basically do a nourishment project and you want to stand out, widen the beach, you can't just put sand on the top of the beach. You kind of need to widen that whole beach profile. And that's where initial nourishment comes into place. So it can either be done via rainbow, where you spray it out, or you can basically drive over and dump it out at the bottom. This is a shot from the Gold Coast of putting the nearshore nourishment in the surf zone, and it's really quite effective. And then in conjunction with the nearshore nourishment, we're looking at a eco-engineered reef. So we've actually done 2 considerations here for Oceanside based on the 2 reefs that are working on the Gold Coast. So we have a sand-filled geocontainer reef, which is actually sort of lower and wider, or we have a rock reef, which is sort of smaller and higher. And both really have their own positives and negatives, looking at safety and cost and constructability, longevity, removability, and the environmental benefits. So based on conversations from the first couple of Rebeach programs, we're using the footprint of the sand-filled geocontainers, and because they're it's also a cost-effective way to do in this pilot sort of setting as well. So basically, if we go ahead with the detailed design stage, we would consider both and run both in parallel. And when you do the detailed design, you do further numerical modeling, but you also do physical modeling, so you can actually run waves in wave tanks over both of these. But we know, based on our initial sort of concept modeling, that either of these footprints is going to work for Oceanside. And when you put them all together, you get this top of the beach speed bump, which is the 2A, so the 2 little headlands. Note that those little headlands are roughly about the same scale as the one under the jetty pier. And then you've got an offshore reef and the additional sand nourishment in that nearshore zone. And what are we really talking about here? We're talking about short headlands that come out onto the beach. We're talking about some low sort of permeable rocks into the surf zone, and we're talking about submerged reefs, which are all already existing here in Southern California. So we're just putting those together. And this is the concept, and one of the concept locations here at Wisconsin Avenue Car Park. You get a bit of an idea of before and after. So a nice, wide, sandy beach, bit of dune up the top, usable, headland space. We didn't want to put too much on it at this point, just as a concept level. So it's got some, dune vegetation, maybe a shower, maybe a bathroom, some designated dog areas, playground, and you get this kind of usable space. So note again, the size of this headland is already what's existing under the pier. So you get this nice wide sandy beach. You got access points between the dunes. Great, for surf contest viewing up on the headland itself, and this nice sort of intertidal walkway around. So you should be able to walk all the way along the beach at low tides. And this is just to reiterate the sort of usability and the space. It's really going to be comparative to the headland that's under the pier as far as scale. And what we kind of noticed being here on the beach and looking at historical imagery, like most people really use the beach, they access from the road and they go straight to this sort of umbrella zone. And there's this almost like an unused sort of space at the top of the beach. So what we're saying is turn this sort of unused top of the beach space into something green, still keep the access way to it so you can still go to your umbrella zone. The umbrella zone still stays the same. Your swimming area still stays the same. But the added surf benefit is actually going to increase, and you're also going to get an offshore habitat as well. Just reiterating that point again. So you've got that sort of like nice dual space up on the top of the beach and on the headland itself, an intertidal habitat down in that sort of permeable headland end, and the reef can really encourage some biodiversity as well. And this is just an example coming off the Australian reef. These large sand-filled containers, about 200 tons each. The type of material that's on the end and the outside is kind of like a Velcro for microbes that are floating around in the water, and they stick to it within a matter of hours. And they really attract the seaweed and kelp, and even the soft corals, which you can see up on the top. So what we're expecting at Oceanside would be very much the same, getting that attraction of seaweed, kelp, and attracting all kinds of critters. We've allowed in the budget to add in some additional bioenhancing elements. So we would actually, target specific species and put in these different elements to attract, the lobsters and different types of fish. We've done that before in the UAE, where we actually built specific units to target like one specific species of spotted grouper, which is called a hamor. It's actually endangered, and the locals said, you're not going to do it. But we worked with a marine biologist, and we actually came up, with this reef, and lo and behold, the hamor actually came and, turned it into a habitat. So you can actually specifically design reef elements to attract certain types of fish. So how is this whole thing going to work? There again, like the little pier headland in the yellow, basically recreating that down the beach. We know that the beach next to the headland is going to be relatively stable at the top of the beach. That intertidal zone still allows for the sand bypassing to go, which is already happening. We're expecting it to slow down by even like 20 to 30% more. And we know that the reef offshore is actually going to reduce the storm erosion on the beach itself. So that's what we're expecting. And the idea here is to slow down the natural process and not to actually trap sand. That's not the point here. So we want that sort of nice natural movement that can go down. We just want to slow it down. And I mean, this whole re-beach approach is about innovation, and we love to be innovative, but we also want to be, risk adverse at the same time. So what are we doing about that? We're basically, leveraging sort of the size and the scale of something that's already working on site with this like little headland speed bump, roughly the same sort of scale. So we know that's going to hold the top of the beach. We know that the engineered reef off the bottom of the beach is going to stabilize the bottom of the beach. So you're in that top of the beach and the bottom of the beach stabilization. So we know that's going to work. And how much is this all going to cost? We're looking at around the $31 million to get this 4,000 feet worth of beachfront. And when you break down the costs, it's really kind of an even split between the amount of sand that you put, the headland, and the reef itself. So as you scale this up down the beach, it would actually get cheaper as you went down because you would only need one extra headland for every reef that you do. So you could actually do the whole of Oceanside for about $130 million. And that would give you a nice, stable beach, protected for storm erosions as well. So what are we really saying here? The living speed bump approach is really just, like leveraging on this sort of resilient development that's been happening, back in Australia over the last few decades. And we just, want to build on that and bring that to Oceanside because we know it works and we know it'll work here. And for a greener and sandier Oceanside into the future. But it's also more than the design. We can basically, put this concept in and we know it'll work, but we're also bringing those last sort of 4 decades of, the monitoring and the management and the technologies and the materials that go along with this kind of re-beach project. So implementing the actual monitoring and knowing what to look for and what the process is going to be so that we can basically feedback and get this thing going and bringing the management, the dune management, the sand management processes so that this can really get longevity. And that kind of wraps it up. So I hope that, helped to get our message across and really look forward to working with you guys and, implementing something like this into the future. Like Alex said, all these slides are going to be available online, and actually there's a whole bunch more information that you'll be able to see online as well. So feel free to check that out and reach out if you've got any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Aaron and the ICM team. So we're going to take another few minutes here to just let you think. I see a lot of people taking notes. I know there's a lot of questions coming up. So please, again, submit some questions either through the Mentimeter or to our wonderful teammates who are collecting your responses manually. We're going to be a couple more minutes, and then our SCAPE team is going to come up and be our final presenter this evening. Our Q&A session is starting at 6 o'clock, so we might run a little bit ahead of schedule, but let's just take a couple minutes with our team from SCAPE. So this evening, again, you've been hearing from 3 different design teams from the Netherlands, Australia, and now we have SCAPE that comes to us from New York City and San Francisco. So we're really excited to give them the floor tonight for the final presentation. And similar to the last couple sessions, what we're looking for are a lot of thinking around what this might do to the future of your coastline, how you might think of future generations using this coastline, what type of resilience it builds. And again, we encourage you to submit questions throughout, take notes, find members of our team, talk to us. And following this final presentation, we're going to jump into our Q&A. So I'm going to hand over the floor now to our team from SCAPE. Thank you all, and we'll let you continue to find your seats as they get started.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging with us for this whole WeBeach process. I'm Pippa Brashear. I'm the Resilience Principal at SCAPE Landscape Architecture. I'm joined by my colleague Jenna Morgus from SCAPE and James Jackson from ESA. And we are here today to do our final presentation of our proposal, Living with a Changing Beach, the Hybrid Beach and Dune Park. So we know that Oceanside is a community that is shaped by its relationship to the shore. It is shaped by the shore, its relationship to the ocean, to the beach, that is that meeting place of land, water, and people, where they really come together and create that vibrancy that defines Oceanside. And I have something. Oh, I don't think so. Anyways. But that space, that place, and all the activities that happen on it are at risk. We know that sand erosion and accretion is a natural coastal process, but in recent years, the erosion, the loss has exceeded the gain, and we are losing the space to foster those activities and the beach itself. The beach has been sustained through ongoing beach nourishment, but we know that nourishment alone is not sustainable for the long term. And that is why we are here today. We also know that the beach itself and the strand behind it are threatened by incoming threats such as sea level rise and increasing coastal storms. But building beach has been a part of Oceanside's history for a long time. There have been actions that have grown, and the beach is not necessarily natural. It has been shaped by human hands through the placement of dredged sand on shore, but also through actions that have interrupted sand movement and increased erosion. But we believe that building beach is part of your future as well, but that will mean living with a changing beach. And that by combining and layering nature-based strategies that are both inspired by and modeled on the natural shorelines and shoreline processes that we see on the Southern California coastline, that we can expand and sustain a sandy beach, reduce risk, and support the waterfront activities that you cherish on Oceanside's shores. Throughout this design process, we've received many questions, input, and feedback from you, and thank you. Your input has made our project much better than it could have been if designed alone and in isolation. And we hope that you see your input reflected in what we discuss and present today. Your input has guided the goals of the project that are listed here, but in short, our goal is to deliver you a pilot that tests nature-based features using materials native to the Southern California coast that restore and retain sand, and that is implementable, adaptable, and potentially replicable to multiple locations in Oceanside. And that is the pilot we're here to present today. We look to strike a middle ground between traditional hard sand retention strategies and the currently long-term unsustainable practice of beach nourishment alone. That these strategies are designed to retain sand and encourage modest localized sand accretion as an alternative to those harder strategies that stop sand movement. This will require ongoing monitoring, maintenance, and adaptive management that is a critical part of any successful proposal. And so we're here to discuss present our pilot, which will happen at Tyson Street Park. And this place has been selected not only because it is a place where we are really losing beach, but it's also a site that has a cobble berm foundation, and it's also a public space. It's a public asset, a public infrastructure, and publicly owned, and a site where we have the foundation to do a realistic, affordable, and implementable pilot. So to discuss that pilot and its processes, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues.
Thanks, Pippa. To start, so this is an image of the Strand where we see the narrowing public beach, an existing expression of cobble at the shoreline edge, and the lawn at Tyson Street Park. In plan, you can clearly see the narrowing of the remaining sandy beach until it ultimately becomes an exposed cobble berm. Adjacent Tyson Street Park consists of lawn and pavement, which is a condition that's quite different from the natural Southern California beach landscapes. So to create an expanded dry sandy beach here, our team has developed a hybrid beach design where a sandy beach perched atop of a cobble berm extends seaward of the Strand to create around 60 feet of new beach. This perched beach is supported by cobble crests and nearshore reefs that work together to promote potential sand accretion. And so expanding the hybrid beach is Dune Park, and Dune Park re-envisions Tyson Street Park with new amenities and coastal landscapes. By shifting the Strand towards the bluff, we make space for dunes. And the dunes in the new park create potential sand feeders for the beach, restore a native Southern California landscape, and extend the dry sandy beach area. Together, the hybrid beach and Dune Park components create between 60 to 100 feet of dry sandy beach, native dune habitats, and new park amenities while preserving critical existing park elements. So how does this all work? To start, here are the existing conditions of the site, where the back of the site is higher in elevation. At the Strand, a small stretch of sand beach exists with an exposed cobble berm sloping down to the water. Our team proposes to reconfigure this section by shifting the Strand up and inland and layering nature-based strategies from the dunes to the beach to the cobble crests to the nearshore reefs, which will work together to build a resilient shoreline. So let's go deeper into the hybrid beach. In this seaward portion of the design, we focus on the establishment and stabilization of a dry sandy beach. The perched beach is built upon a cobble berm comprised of existing and new cobble material. Cobble crests are the undulating formations you see here along the shore. They extend from the perched beach into the water. These crests reduce the erosive forces of waves and create opportunities for potential sand accretion in the pockets between them. We also propose placing sand within the pockets to provide comfortable sandy access to the water's edge, at least during the summer. The nearshore reefs will break waves as they approach the beach and have the potential to help accrete additional sand. For reference, we looked at historical imagery of Oceanside's beach to provide inspiration for our designs. This is a 1965 image of Oceanside where you can see these cobble crests extending into the water with pockets of wet sand and a stretch of wide sand beach. We've also looked to contemporary reference sites as inspiration for our project. At San Onofre, you can see a mix of cobble and sand across the beach and these undulating cobble crests. We know that San Onofre has erosion and sand retention issues of its own, but through an engineered design, we can enhance natural processes. So going back to Tyson Street Beach, we want to build upon the cobble material that's already there. And today we could see about 5 to 30 feet maximum of sandy beach, but by implementing the hybrid beach, we have the potential to expand this sandy beach width to between 60 and 100 feet. By elevating and extending the existing cobble berm and placing sand on top of it, we create a perched beach condition. With the sandy beach sited higher and lifted away from regular wave action, we can reduce erosion and prolong the lifespan of sandy recreational spaces like this, essential to the oceanside community. You can also see here the proposed sand pockets that slope down into the water to provide more comfortable access to the ocean. Looking at this section, you can see the design parameters that we've used for slopes, widths, and heights of these proposed features. These are the proposed constructed conditions, and as a dynamic coastal landscape, they will shift and change with the seasons. In this section, you can also see the various materials that we're proposing. To start, we are building upon the existing cobble berm. The yellow and black speckled area is additional cobble material placed on site, and the yellow is a sand layer placed on top of the cobble. So for the cobble crests, we're using a few different materials. A layer of small cobble is placed on top of a core of larger cobble and boulders, and at the very seaward edge of the crests, even larger boulders are used to help protect and stabilize the toe of the formation. The most seaward component of the hybrid beach design are the nearshore reefs, which are offshore structures inspired by Southern California reefs. We know that these reefs are typically large and connected to bedrock formation, but here we are building rock structures that mimic those natural reefs' ability to dissipate wave energy and encourage sand retention. And so in section, you can see how the proposed nearshore reefs combine cobble and larger boulder material. They are fully submerged under the mean low water line. And this is meant to work with our cobble crests to test the sand retention and accretion potential of these combined features. And so now we'll walk through the dune park design. In Dune Park, dunes are designed to adapt over time and shift with changing winds, waves, and storm events. Native dune vegetation will be planted atop of the dunes, and walking paths winding through the landscape will orient users to an expanded sandy beach at the water's edge. By relocating the strand inland, this critical infrastructure is elevated and less exposed to flooding and waves, buffered by the restored dunes and expanded beach. This is inspired by a historic image of Tyson Street Park. This image is from the 80s, and you could see that before the park was developed, there were sandy dunes and native coastal vegetation stretching across the strand. We were also inspired by contemporary nature-based dune projects like the Cardiff Living Shoreline and Surfers Point in Ventura. There are great precedents on how local materials can be repurposed and how innovative designed landscapes can work with natural processes. And so what we're doing is we're proposing to transform what is now a static and manicured landscape into one that is immersive, dynamic, and features a native dune ecosystem and sandy beach. We propose boardwalk pathways allowing users to comfortably experience the dune landscape and navigate to the proposed hybrid beach beyond. Looking at the Dune Park cross-section, you can see the area is about 100 feet wide. Grassy lawn has been converted to dunes with a thick layer of sand, designed with an elevation responding to water levels today as well as in the future. But this space is also a social park space for recreation, including programs like a beach play space, a designated dog park, in addition to preserving existing beach amenities like the restroom. Dune Park also further expands the sandy perch beach to provide more space for people to recreate. So back towards the bluff, Dune Park includes community amenities that embrace the look and feel of Southern California. The beach play area seen here is nestled behind the realigned strand and looks out across the dunes to the water. So this project is for people, but it's also for the birds, mammals, and aquatic creatures that also share the oceanside shoreline. Here you can see how Hybrid Beach and Dune Park create a range of habitats that support healthy coastal ecosystems. So Hybrid Beach and Dune Park work together as a proposal to positively transform Oceanside's waterfront. Not only does the pilot create a perched beach that could sustain the uses and activities you enjoy today, it also creates exciting opportunities for social and ecological advances in the future. Now I'm going to turn it over to James.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm going to take the next few slides to describe how our proposed pilot will be designed to perform over time. Wrong direction. All right, so to reiterate our design purpose, the pilot will establish a dry beach area on top of an expanded cobble berm, provide a landward dune beach transition space for the beach to migrate and be more resilient to storm impacts, and also include cobble crests and nearshore reefs to further support and protect the perched beach and facilitate sand retention and accretion throughout the project reach. These reefs are conceptually designed to dissipate waves for the purpose of sediment retention. During the engineering design phase, these reefs could be refined by engaging with the local surf community and additional engineering analysis in order to improve the potential surfing benefits provided by these nearshore reefs. Monitoring and adaptive management are an important part of this project concept, and we're aware of several ongoing efforts to track shoreline change in Oceanside. In fact, this pilot can engage with the ongoing efforts, including SOS and Scripps Beach Transects, as well as the Scripps Cobble Tracking Project. The pilot provides opportunities for academic research and community education and engagement on coastal sciences and adaptation. For example, an interactive monitoring program could be developed with Scripps and others to create access for the public to engage and track the project over time, introduce a cobble tracking platform, and even potentially a program such as Adopt a Cobble for the kids to get involved and learn more about coastal science. Again, this monitoring program is not developed, so it would be coordinated with these other ongoing efforts within the community and the region. For the next few slides, I'm going to do a bit of time traveling to explore how our dynamic concept will function over time. To start, post-construction, we'll have the conditions depicted here. This is a slice of part of the project concept. And again, to reiterate, we have a realigned strand that supports a wider dune beach transition, perched dry beach on the cobble berm, and crests extending into the water, creating undulating pockets, providing sand access opportunities to the water. Again, the nearshore reefs will be located offshore of the crests and work to dissipate waves and increase sediment accretion potential. During typical summer conditions, the cobble crests and nearshore reefs are designed to be relatively stable, and summer's a typical season of accretion. So the sandy pockets between the crests will persist, and the crests and reefs have the potential to retain sediment lower in the pocket and in the area between the crests and reefs. And I wanted to reiterate that our concept is designed to facilitate localized accretion of sand while not impeding the overall longshore sediment transport through Oceanside's shore. Shifting to the winter, which is more characteristically stormy, we expect the stormier winter conditions to erode sand from the crests and from the pockets, exposing the cobble material and also creating a scarp when the transition from cobble exposed to the remaining perched dry beach. I'll say that the majority of the dry beach would be preserved throughout the typical winter based on its design elevation. It's the purpose of our elevated cobble berm. During typical winters, crest and reef cobble material may shift slightly, but overall hold their shape with the support of the larger rock that defines their overall geometry. And typical maintenance after regular winters or average winters could include minor reshaping of the cobble crests and berms, importing cobble as needed to replace material that's been displaced. But primarily the annual maintenance would be replenishing sand on that seaward face of the berm, on the crests, and into the pockets to restore that sandy path of access from the upper dry beach into the water. Considering a more extreme storm, a characteristic storm we consider 20-year recurrence interval of greater. So a storm typically might occur once every 20 years. That includes high water levels and high waves, offshore swell, all leading to additional setup and more deep water, deeper water at the shore and larger waves breaking closer to the shore. The concept, as well as the rest of the shoreline, could see major impacts. So during such an extreme storm event, we'd expect the perched sandy beach to erode more significantly as wave overtopping reaches up onto the top of the berm, potentially impacting dunes and the ends of the access points on that perched beach. We'd anticipate during an extreme event that cobble on the crests and nearshore reefs would mobilize and spread further towards the shore, moving as they move landward by action of the waves. The cobble berm could adjust, scouring at the toe and migrating material up onto the berm by wave run-up and overtopping. And maintenance after a more significant storm would be more intensive. It would require reshaping, replenishing cobble onto the reefs and crests, reshaping the cobble berm as needed, potential adjustments to the anchoring rock in the crests and reefs, and a larger volume of sand to replace the sand in the pockets over the crests along that seaward slope and up onto any part of the beach that is eroded during such an event. There could be additional effort to revegetate and restore some dunes that may have eroded during such a large event, and potential repairs to the boardwalk access points. I'm now going to return the slides back to Pippa.
So, a question that you're probably wondering, and then at the end, it would return after that repair and maintenance to that summer condition. But the question you're probably wondering is, what does this cost? We feel this is a buildable pilot with modest costs, and I'm going to present the costs we've broken them out by those two components, the hybrid beach and the dune park, as well as the construction and maintenance costs. So we estimate the cost for the hybrid beach to be around $6.2 million. That incorporates the supply and placement of the different materials, the sand, the cobble, the rock, as well as the mobilization fees, and a 30% contingency, which we feel is appropriate for this early level of conceptual design. The dune park comes in at around $13.6 million, and this includes all of the work, including the relocation of the strand, as well as the reconstruction of the park, the various elements that Jenna described. You could reduce this cost by not including all of those elements of the park, but we believe this really brings all of the amenities. Again, you could also do the hybrid beach alone, but together the layered combination of the hybrid beach with the dune park creates a wider beach, a more resilient landscape with the dunes as well, a safer strand, and all the amenities that space and park bring. And it comes in really at under $20 million, which is below kind of the target price of the pilot. When we think about maintenance, for the dune park itself, it will require maintenance. There will need to be a maintenance budget, but we don't anticipate that being any higher than the existing maintenance required for the current Tyson Street Park. For the hybrid beach, that normal annual maintenance costs, the replenishment of small amounts of sand, the modest repositioning, we anticipate an annual maintenance cost of around $100,000. Now, on those less frequent years, that 1 in 20-year event, that more extreme storm that involves the more major repairs and replenishment of material, that could reach up to a cost of closer to $1 million, or here we've balanced that at $800,000. So that's kind of the maintenance cost range, really typically being in that lower end. And what I want to turn to here is the idea of a pilot. This is not meant to be the end, but rather the beginning of restoring and retaining beaches on Oceanside shoreline. Based on the success of the pilot and design refinements developed through monitoring and adaptive management, we hope that you'll be able to adapt and replicate this strategy to other locations in Oceanside. And although few other locations provide that opportunity that Tyson Street Park does today to shift the strand back, we think that the hybrid beach component, adapting the project elements based on lessons learned from the pilots and the specifics of each new site, can be replicated across Oceanside shoreline using existing beach access points as anchor points. And who knows, over time, additional opportunities to realign the strand, to create additional dune parks, and even other wider beaches may emerge as we test and adapt and we manage these strategies. So, we look forward to questions. That brings everything to a close. Thank you again for your time today, your engagement over the duration of the Real Beach competition, for inviting us into your community and Oceanside. We hope we get to spend more time with you and your beach. So thank you.